Welcome to the Chargers TV podcast version of the show. I'm Ron Riggs. In this edition, we catch up with Jacob Doole, who writes for The Pick and Roll, which is a well-known basketball media outlet. We speak about the cancellation of NBL 1 and getting his thoughts. We also speak about his thoughts on the potential teams of the Hobart Chargers, and we speak about the NBL coming to Tasmania in 2021 and what name it could be around that. That and a whole lot more here on the Chargers TV podcast. And on the line now we have from The Pick and Roll. He does some articles for them and he's a Hobart local. Fair to say I might have coached this kid when he was younger too, but Jacob Doole is on the line with us, giving JB the rest for the week. Jacob, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you going?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. We've been meaning to have you on for a little while now. I know you did some stuff with us last year in a different venture, but great to have you on here. And I think our plan was to, if you were still around Hobart and not coming, not going over to Melbourne, I think we were going to try to get you involved within our broadcast stuff for Chargers TV. But glad we could have you on the PC version of the show.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be involved in some capacity. I was looking forward to a bit of work during the season with the team as well, but obviously that's not going to happen, so that's all I have to do for now.
Absolutely. And now, if you can just briefly just expand on your role with obviously The Pick and Roll, and they're a very popular and well-known established basketball media outlet in the country.
Yeah, so basically at the moment, Pick and Roll, all their writers are volunteers, so I'm just another volunteer writer with them doing a lot of features, interviews, a few little thought pieces on mostly the NBL at the moment, and a bit of NBA and a bit of NBL 1 as well. So we try to touch on sort of everything Australian basketball and fill in a bit of a gap in the market that some of the bigger outlets have been missing for a while.
Oh, absolutely, and it's very valuable to have Pick and Roll on board within the basketball fraternity. I know I've seen some of your articles and seen some of Damien's articles, and you guys do a really good job there. Let's talk about NBL 1, because I know you would have covered NBL 1 this year, whether that's from a Chargers perspective or a whole league perspective. So obviously the NBL 1 have cancelled the league for this season due to COVID-19, and disappointing in some ways, but we kind of knew in reality that there was no further alternative there, Jacob.
Yeah, at the time when all of these sports leagues were sort of being cancelled, there were still little pockets of people saying, oh, this is an overreaction. But I think when you look at the updated guidelines just in general in society now, it would have been impossible for any sports to really go ahead. So I think it was probably good foresight from the NBL, from the NBL 1 and all the administrators to get in a bit earlier and make that call for the safety of everyone.
Absolutely, and certainly now, of course, our attention will turn to obviously the 2021 season in due course. But if we were looking, let's just put a hypothetical out there. If the season was going ahead as usual, and let's just say we're in our usual kind of pre-season where we're technically now 3 weeks from the season tipping off. Again, hypothetical here, folks. If we were starting to predict where teams may be at, where would you think, after looking at what the teams were signing on for both women's and men's, where would you think your top 4 or top 8 would be teams wise?
Well, I think if we start with the men for the Chargers, they were looking really good from what I'd seen. The top level talent that they signed was sort of at that NBL caliber that I think you need to be one of the better teams in the NBL 1. So with Tad coming back and with Christian signing on, and then also some of the local Tassie players, some of the younger guys who showed a lot last season. I think the base was there, obviously, depending on a few more additions to be right up near the top of the ladder. And you could say the same for the women as well. The base was there with Shyla Heel coming in, and obviously a really exciting young player to see what she could do, and then a bit more experience around her. I think I think both teams had a chance to at least make a bit of a push for the finals and potentially beyond that, which obviously would have been really exciting. And it's exciting that those players wanted to sign here this year, and it's exciting to think that players like that might want to come back next year as well.
Absolutely, and of course we've spoken. I've spoken with Mark and Stewie on that topic that you just raised about players coming back. All parties are very interested. The only probably exception would be Shyla Hill, as she'll probably try to aim for the 2021 WNBA draft, where I think she's up there for top 20.
Yeah, which is really exciting for Australian basketball as a whole to have her looking like such a good prospect at the next level.
And what did you think of that signing when Hobart did announce that? It was quite big news at the time, and a lot of buzz and excitement. What was your thoughts on that?
I think it was fantastic. Obviously, there would have been a lot of teams trying to sign her given her track record, but I think the way that Hobart announced it, from what I'd heard, saying that she was going to have a bit of a longer leash, give her a bit of control over the team, a bit of a voice, even with older players around her. I think it's a good way to go about it. With young players like that, sometimes you just have to sort of let them rip and let them go and see what happens. And I think she was talented enough that would have worked really well if we'd gotten to see it.
I do agree with you there. The men's side of, I know we touched on the women's there, the men's side of things, obviously the big signing to come. I mean, obviously we announced Tad Duffelmeyer and of course Kristen Giolina, but it looked like on the back of that that Harry Froling and Craig Moller were looking to be announced as well. So if we did get the all clear there, Jacob, and everything went smoothly, how big of that signing would it have been for the men's team?
That would have been a hell of a starting five in the end, wouldn't it, if you had those two in? You've pretty much got every base that you want covered if you add those guys in, with Harry as the building block in the middle, and Craig Moller, obviously this NBL season, I think took a few more steps as a defender, just that really versatile type of player, and just filling in all the gaps for Sydney. So I think they're all players who would have fitted nicely together, and if you put them all together, I think Hobart's talent would have matched pretty much anyone in the league, honestly, at that top end of the roster, which is really exciting that the Chargers could come back in after a couple of years off and already attract that kind of talent.
And yes, speaking of having that year off and that type of thing, what are your thoughts about the Chargers being back? Obviously, a year out, and then of course they've come back in on the whole saga to do with obviously the Husky situation.
I think it's great. I think it's the fact that the Huskies obviously didn't go the way that anyone wanted it to, but the Chargers have sort of stepped up and straight away filled that void. It would have been a problem, I think, if we'd gone maybe a year or two without a team in Hobart in the NBL one. I think it's important that team is there, and the fact that it's the Chargers again, who already had such a strong brand and a history of success, and the coaches who've obviously come back and they have a long history with the team as well. I think the whole thing was really important in keeping the brand of Tasmanian basketball and the impact of the game in the state alive. I think it's great to have them back, really.
And of course, like you and me, we've been around Hobart for quite some time now. That's showing our age there a little bit. Yeah. But obviously, we talk about the branding, we talk about the profile of this team within the city of Hobart. Just how have you seen over the years just grow every single time, year after year, and now it's at a point where we're probably one of the most popular teams around Hobart, if not in Hobart itself.
I think it's really good. I think Tasmania and Hobart specifically has had a sort of gap in the market, at least the whole time I was growing up, for top level sport. And when I was younger, you had like the Tassie Devils in the VFL. That never really stuck. I don't think people quite connected to it the way AFL would have hoped. And then there's just been that big hole there. And the NBL one is sort of as close so far to the top level as we've gotten, and I think it's really good that the Chargers have come back and continue to grow the popularity they already had in this new league that has everyone really, really excited, and that engaged a lot of people last season too.
It certainly has. NBL One really took off in leaps and bounds last year, and certainly would have done the same thing again this year as well too. So coming off the back of obviously the NBL One stuff, we now go into obviously the NBL side of things, and it was only about a month or two ago that we were announced as the 10th team coming into National Basketball League for the 2021 and 2022 season. Your reaction and thoughts to that?
Well, looking back now, we need something to look forward to, don't we? It's
we
a good
do.
thing that they got that announcement in just before all this happened. But I think that's where the potential is for basketball to really take over in Tasmania even more than it already has. I mentioned the gap in the market for top-level sport. I think the NBL was always, it has been for years, the most likely to succeed in Hobart and in Tasmania. And with Larry Kesselman, all the work that he's talking about doing at the Derwent Entertainment Centre and all the plans in place, I think it sounds like all the ingredients are there for it to succeed as well, and he's going to make sure it succeeds, which I think is amazing, really, considering where the state's come from to see where it's going now. It's really, really exciting.
It certainly is. It was a massive announcement on that Friday, the last Friday of February, and certainly now we look at what the team could potentially have players wise. I know you've done a couple of articles already on pickandroll.com.au. You can check out Jacob's articles there in regards to who might be your kind of dream list as far as who you'd like on the team, and of course the potential team name. There's been a bit of discussion around that as well too. We'll get to that very shortly, but obviously player-wise, the NBL One would have been a good breeding ground, obviously, and of course you could see where Stewie was going with his squad with the Chargers, that there are fringe players or bench players knocking on that door to find more playing time when it comes to this new franchise.
As you say, the NBL One would have been a good opportunity to try some guys out. You see a lot of players, even from the first season of NBL One last year, guys like Dane Pinot, who stood out at that level and then got their increased opportunity in the NBL. So it would have been nice to especially see some of these local Tassie guys get a bit more burn, a few more minutes at the NBL One level, and see who gets a chance when that new team does come in. But that's all right. I'm sure some of them will get a chance anyway when the team comes in, and they'll hopefully make the most of it. Who would be
your marquee players that if you were the GM of this team, who would be your marquee players you'd be trying to sign?
First of all, I think Chris Golding is they have to make an offer to him. It makes too much sense to not make an offer. At least he's got the profile in Australia now. He's played at the Olympics, he's played at the World Championships, he's played well at those tournaments. He's obviously a legend of the NBL by now, and he was born and grew up in Launceston until he was 8 years old. So there's a lot of stuff there that indicates to him potentially signing. And when I spoke to him during last season in the NBL, and I mentioned the Tassie team, and he was very careful not to say anything that was going to get him in trouble with Melbourne. He didn't say I'd love to play for them or anything, but he said it'd be a great road trip. It's really exciting to have the team. The fans are going to be great. So he was really excited about it, and I think you have to at least make him an offer as your first marquee player.
Yep. Okay. Would there be anyone else that we would look for as well too?
I mean, with another NBL season still to go, I think there's a lot of things that could happen before the team does come in. But I spoke on the pick and roll, as he said, about a couple of guys like Daniel Johnson from Adelaide.
Yep.
He's going to be out of contract going into that season. I think he'd be getting on a little bit in his career, but he might be looking for a change of scenery or just a bit of a mix-up to finish his career out. And I think he'd still be a really productive player. A guy like Cam Glidden, who's struggled a bit last season with Brisbane, he'll be out of contract as well, and I think a change of scenery would definitely be good for him. And then, look, you never know what might happen overseas. If some of these Aussie guys in the NBA maybe fall out of favour, I think it'd be smart to go after them and really get a big impact big name signing off the bat and get the team off and running really early.
There's been a bit of talk about the coaching position as well too, Jacob. Obviously, a few names have been thrown around the hat. I know the 36ers are currently doing interviews for a new head coach, obviously with the departure of Joey Wright, and a few names have been thrown around the hat there. But if, for this new franchise and the Tassie team, who would you put in your crystal ball as far as, well, who could be coaching this team?
That's a good question, that one. It's one of the most important ones as well, isn't it? You need to have the right person in charge, I think, no matter who the players are. I think it's going to come down to whether Kesselman or whoever owns the team when it comes in, whether they want an experienced head and a name and someone who people are going to recognise as straight away as an authority figure, like a Joey Wright. I know he had his issues when he left Adelaide, but someone like that who has that experience and the respect on their name immediately, or whether they turn to someone a bit younger and say, here's a new franchise, maybe some younger players, and the coach grows with them as well. But I think it'd probably be smart to get one of those more experienced heads, someone who's spent some time in the league. And I know things didn't quite go smoothly in Sydney, but is Andrew Gaze going to be available? Is there any chance we could get him to coach?
It's funny you mentioned that, because obviously when Drury was down here back in 2017 for obviously the Melbourne Tigers game that they played here to do an entertainment centre against us at the Chargers, was a privilege and honour to do a post-game interview with him in front of our members, and we threw a question out to him about how his first season of NBL went with the Sydney Kings, and one of his comments, I think, in that interview was basically, he could well be coming here and coaching one day if he's not careful. So sometimes those comments could come back and haunt him. So you never know. Andrew may look at it. I don't know. I know he's back in Melbourne for family reasons and really loving his time back there. So he's got to be a potential name, though, to be thrown around the hat. He's had that experience in the NBL. He's had that baptism of fire. So you can't rule anyone out at this stage. The other name I want to throw to you, Jacob, is obviously Anthony Stewart. Stewie being around the game a long time, and had a quick stint in the NZNBL last year. So he's had a bit of a taste of that real top tier level. Do you reckon that they may throw him into the mix?
I think he'll definitely be someone they look at and they talk to, and that will be right there when they make the offer, because, as you say, he has that experience at close to the NBL level now. He's got a good track record with the Chargers in the past. He has, and off the court, he still has that name recognition. In Tasmania especially, people respect him in basketball. And the players would respect him, I think. I think he's proven that in his time coaching already. So, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be right up there when time comes to make that call. I think he's as good a chance as anyone at this stage.
And certainly we'll watch this space closely indeed over the next few months, because obviously some decisions will have to be made soon, I'd imagine. Of course, they have to appoint a CEO, and then obviously a CEO would get his admin staff in and whatnot, and then they'll probably look at appointing a coach, and then obviously the race for players then would start, I'd imagine. Yeah.
There's obviously a few steps to go, isn't there? But we'll wait and see.
Definitely wait and see. All right, the potential name of this team, and oh boy, Jacob,
got a much bigger response than I was expecting in debate for this.
There's a lot of debate happening on social media, and it's actually all pretty good from what I've seen. Nothing negative.
No, nothing too bad.
Nothing too bad, but there's been a list of names being thrown by everyone, and some of those names are quite unique, interesting, good, bad, and ugly. You've come up with some names as well too, and again, your article on the pickandroll.com.au for people that need to check it out, please do so. But what names did you come up with? They're quite inventive to me.
Yeah, I have to say, sitting down to come up with this list was a real struggle because I'd write something down, I'd think about it, and I just straight away wouldn't like it. I did that for about 30 different names, I reckon. It's really hard to come up with something just out of nowhere and have it feel sort of like it fits or it's organic, especially for a team that doesn't actually exist yet. It's kind of hard to get something that fits. So that's my disclaimer. I'm definitely not in love with any of these names. It's
okay.
So if anyone wants to criticise, that's fine. I probably agree with you. But the first one I had listed was the Timbers, which has been used in the United States in their soccer league, the Major League Soccer with Portland, and has resonated with the fans there quite well. They have one of the biggest fan bases in the league, but it sort of would at least represent an aspect of Tasmania that is fairly well known.
That's true.
The forests, and that's a big part of our landscape, and it's unique, as you said. It's something that we haven't seen in Australian sports before, and I think it would be good as we move out of the era where every name has to be, an animal or something intimidating or a certain type of name. So it might be something, a little bit of a change of pace for a new team, which could be good.
Yes, so Timbers was one. Brewers was another one. I've got your article up on my iPad now, so I'm having a quick look here, Jacob.
Brewers was one that was actually suggested by my editor. I didn't come up with that one myself, but I didn't mind that.
Now, with the Brewers, I swear, back in the old CBA days or Siebel days, before the Northwest Thunder were called the Thunder, they had some different names. There was the Originals and I believe the Brewers. Now
I saw a few people telling me that. I didn't realise that until there were a few comments mentioning that. So that one that has been used already.
Yes, that was used back in the 90s from memory, I think, or early 2000s. One or the other there. It's stretching me, but I'm sure people online will let us know.
A little bit before my time, so that makes me feel better. Before I'd remember it.
Yes. Van Diemen's. Now, I know Van Diemen's have been used in the hockey down here, I'm pretty sure, but Van Diemen's, again, has a good kind of relation to, obviously, our state.
Yeah, and the only problem with that is when you, as I said in my article, when you go so far back in history, there's always going to be a bit of some negative connotations that could go with it. But I think as a name on its own, it's something different, and it's something that absolutely no other team is ever going to have. That's one thing that we know. It's going to be unique to our team forever because nowhere outside of Tasmania can use that name, which I think is kind of cool. There's not many things you could say that about.
Definitely. The Freeze. I just don't agree with this one.
That's fair enough. That's getting a little bit too abstract.
I just can't see that with the marketing promotion on that. Oh, good Lord. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Not a bad name to throw in there. But yeah. I could see where you're going with it just by reading the comment your comments here. Yeah, but yeah, fair enough. And then of course you got the Heat as well too.
A little bit tongue in cheek for that one.
Yes,
a little bit of a. I can't see that one getting up either, honestly. But you never know. You got to try these things. Maybe we can rebuild the image of Tasmanian weather starting with our team.
Well, you possibly could. And I do like your little quote, your sentence here. And I quote, I mean, who doesn't love a bucket full of irony? Well, there you go. My goodness.
All we had to say about that one.
Yes, my word. So that were your options, and then of course and then there's many other options online. Obviously, the two obvious ones that people are kind of crying out for here are the Devils and the Tigers. Now, the problem with those two names, Jacob, they have been kind of trademarked by AFL Tas and Cricket Tas respectively. So it's going to be a tad hard to try to pull that name back into the name of the NBL team here.
Yeah, the Hobart Devils especially, that's where it gets kind of interesting because the Hobart Devils is at the moment owned by the Champions League 3-on-3 basketball, but that trademark has been contested by the NBL according to the government registry. I'm not too well versed in copyright law and things like that, but it looks like it's been contested. I'm not too sure what the process is or what the outcome is there, but you never know. Maybe we'll get that one back for the NBL at some point. It's a bit hard to say at the moment, but at this stage, it looks like they might not be available, those names, which is a shame because it's got a lot of history with it, the Devils franchise.
Absolutely it does, and I should probably mention too, one of our media colleagues here at Chargers TV, Brent Costello, did come out with that story in regards to obviously the trademark issues between obviously the 3x3 and the NBL and AFL Tas there. So. What would it be? We were talking about team colours as well too. Our team colours at the Chargers kind of a bit of a blue and a purple kind of look. What colours would you like to see for this Tasmanian franchise?
That's a good question. Everyone immediately thinks of yellow and green, I think, with Tasmania, but I actually really like the Chargers look at the moment. It's something a little bit different to what anyone else is doing, so. Wouldn't want to step on your toes or anything with the new NBL team, but something along those lines might be nice. But or maybe just a bit of a different take on the yellow and green might be nice, some different shades, or mix it up a little bit so it's not just the tried and true that we've already had before. Obviously too, I agree with you there, and I think that's not bad thinking outside the box either. For a throwback though, if obviously the NBL kind of they don't have Heritage Round, but I know the teams have got their throwback jerseys. But you certainly agree here that the throwback jerseys for us for the Tassie side should be the Devils tops that they last wore pretty much. That design. Yeah, no, that you'd have to think they'd definitely wear that at least some of the time. It is interesting with the NBL. They, as you say, they don't have a heritage round. The league itself seems to be leaning away from that kind of thing with the fact that a lot of people wanted South East Melbourne to be called the Magic as a bit of a throwback, and as far as I know, they didn't even give that a look in. I think they're really trying to reinvent themselves, but the teams themselves, as you say, have their throwback jerseys, and I think that'd be a great one for the Tassie team. There's some pretty obvious options there.
Definitely. Should NBL 1 have a throwback jersey type round? I know a few clubs do it over in Melbourne. I know Kilsyth is pretty well renowned for doing their throwback jerseys, but should the NBL 1 take a bit of a throwback round?
I think it's a good opportunity. Fans love that stuff. Fans who have been around for a long time, and even, I haven't been around for a long time really in sports, and I think it's great those kind of rounds where you get a bit of a look at a bit of the history of the game, and maybe in 20 years' time in Heritage Round, the Chargers can dust off the old Huskies jerseys for a week.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Can't see that one happening.
No, good. My goodness, Jacob.
But no, I think it's something they should look into. It's definitely engaging for the fans and something a bit different for the teams. Just to kind of save you on your previous answer there, the Chargers could do a throwback jersey. I know they had a green/white striped jersey. Looking at some of the old photos in the archives, so they could throw back to that, or there's another one with a prancing horse on it. As well too. So there's a few ideas there that the Chargers could definitely do there. So the logo at the moment was a fairly recent one, wasn't it? And the rebrand. So it wasn't that long ago they were in a bit of a different look as far as I can remember.
The logo was very basic back in the day. It wasn't until the rebranding side of things where we did change it up. So I think we went from a very basic standard logo to you had your major sponsor, and then of course you had the name under it, and then we moved to obviously the two thunderbolts and the basketball. there, which we stuck through all the way until about 2016, and of course 2017 when we did the whole rebrand, we brought in the Rhino,
which I think was a good choice. I remember when all the options were there. That was my favourite. So you've done well.
Better thank David Bartlett for that one. He had a few good ideas. What do you see? What do you see happening? Obviously now going forward into the future, as far as maybe basketball is concerned here in Hobart, and then maybe a little bit more broader with obviously what NBL One are potentially doing. We're trying to obviously they've got SA on board now and Queensland on board and. Trying to get other states involved as well too. Where do you see the future at with the sport here in our state, but then also too within our league?
For both, really. I think it's in as strong a position as it probably ever has been with the way that they're setting things up at the moment. I think getting the other states on board with NBL One, as you said, is a massive step in the right direction. It opens the door to a lot of unique possibilities in sport in Australia, playoffs between conferences and different maybe tournaments, knockout tournaments during the year between conferences, that kind of thing, which no other sport can really offer. And I think that feeds into the NBL as well and down to the other levels. When the game as a whole is thriving, it filters down to every level. And if the NBL One continues to grow, that'll attract more fringe NBL talent, which will then get opportunities and maybe more people from overseas will see Australia as a basketball country, and then more NBL players will come over. And obviously with Hobart more entrenched in both the NBL One and in the future the NBL, I think that can only help the game grow in the state as well at a participation level.
Well, Jacob, obviously absolutely fantastic to hear from you, and great to get your insight on not only the NBL One and obviously the NBL Tasmanian franchise side of things as well too, but also to the charges as well. As we said at the top of the show here, or top of the show, the top of the podcast, that we were kind of hoping to get you involved in some way, shape or form, depending on your movements, and a pity that you weren't able to. Not a pity that the league. I'm getting my words muddled now. It was a pity that unfortunately cancellation of the league, but right decision. But if everything did go ahead and you were still around, I have no doubt we would have had you involved in our game night broadcast stuff as well too, and of course, and still able to do your work for NBL, not NBL One, for the pick and roll.
It's a shame, obviously. Good decision by the league, but hopefully I'll still be around next season and I'll be able to come to a few games and see what I can do with you guys.
I'd hope so. I definitely hope so. So, no doubt. We'll try to get you throughout the year, Jacob. We've got a few ideas that we're kind of, me and JB are floating around at the moment, just to try to give everyone a bit of a basketball fix while there's no basketball at the moment. So we'll try to get you back on where you can. But I really appreciate your time today here on Chargers PC, as JB dubs it, and no doubt we'll speak to you again soon.
No, thank you for having me. Cheers.
And that was Jacob Doole joining us on the podcast. Okay, you can follow the Hobart Chargers on their social media. You can give them a like on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram. Or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. So don't forget to keep up to date with all the goings on here at the Hobart Chargers. Also too, our merchandise store is up and running. The link will be in the description below. So make sure you click on the link, have a look at our merchandise and see what takes your fancy. And that will pretty much wrap us up for this edition of the Chargers podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.